In chapters 21 to 25 of Warlord Arcanist, Volke finds himself in a humorous predicament when he falls asleep in the first available room in his new estate, only to be awakened by King Odion in a nursery. King Odion's mischievous grin hints at a newfound insight into Volke's character. As Volke explores his new home, he feels strangely uncomfortable and tries to avoid his servants. Seeking a moment of peace, he takes a quick bath and has a brief but important discussion with Zaxis about humility. Soon after, Volke and Zaxis encounter Illia, who helps them get back on track for a crucial meeting with the Frith Guild Guildmaster, the King of Javin, and the Queen of Cilantro. This tense but productive meeting sets the stage for their next moves. Volke continues to train his magic, and in his dreams, he explores underwater castles that enhance his understanding of terrain manipulation. Adelgis later reveals a disturbing discovery from a captured pirate, showing that the Soul Forge experiment can reanimate the dead by stealing souls, adding a new layer of urgency to their mission.
Welcome back to the Frith Guild podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm co-host, Scott.
And today we'll be going over chapters 21 through 25 of Warlord Arcanist. And just before we get going, I do want to remind everybody that Labyrinth Arcanist is coming out tomorrow as of this release date of January the 8th. Super excited about that. I know I will be digging into it, especially with having our little break between chapters here. With that, we're going to jump on in chapter 21.
Chapter 21 is the Savant compound. So Volke now owns an estate, a massive estate. As he walks in, the Javin guards, he does notice that they do have friendship bracelets on. And that's the only thing I could think of. They're big Swifties, from what I hear. Volke, somehow, despite every single childish ambition in him, decides to go to bed rather than exploring his own estate.
He finds the first room and was like, okay, I'm going to go sleep in here.
Yeah, like a nursery. It's got like actual pictures of people nursing on the walls. I would have found a different room.
Yes.
He does find Adelgis and does ask Adelgis, who is the big intimidating fellow that he is, to help with the prisoner. Before Volke has a chance to escape the nursery, Odion does come to see him and gives him a fair bit of hassle for sleeping in the nursery. He was like, I didn't realize you were into that. Okay.
Kind of that, to each your own, man. I'm not going to judge you, man. It is what it is.
No shame here. He does also explain that the friendship bracelets are reminders of death, so you get different colored thread based on losing friends in battle, based by killing enemies in battle, so it is something that they use to almost celebrate death in a positive way and just kind of remember those who have fallen. He does come to summon Volke. Eventide is looking for him as she's trying to prepare for the next phase of their plan.
And with that, we're getting into chapter 22, We Need to Talk. That doesn't sound ominous or freaking anytime you ever hear that in your life.
Are you breaking up with me?
Yes. So I just want to say how hilarious it is, how absolutely huge and massive that this mansion is, but essentially the least comfortable in it. And he's just like, this is supposed to be mine. Volke has servants. He actually has people to get him things. And he tries to avoid them like they're the plague. I don't want to, please don't say anything to me. I'm not important.
I don't want to hamper you with doing things I did of you.
Okay, so let's take a second here. Because we have Volke, who's the most humble person in the world, that would feel absolutely guilty about asking them to do anything for him. Even to wash his clothes, he'd probably be like, where's the laundry at? How do I turn the machine on? Where do I put the soap? He would be doing it all for himself. Let's look at the other shoe on the foot, or the other shoe here with Zaxis. Let's imagine Zaxis in this situation. He'd be like, let me see what I can get them to do. How far I can go with this. Volke does find his place to wash up, and as he's getting out of his extremely fast bath, Zaxis bursts into the bathroom, trying to deflate Volke's ego as if his head is rapidly swelled up. And again, it's just entertaining that Zaxis is the one doing this. because we all know that this would be for, like, this is exactly what we would need to do for Zaxis.
Yeah, it's strange with him being the optimist in this situation.
Yeah, and even Volk is at a point of like, well, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to save the world, I've got to stop the Second Ascension, I've got to heal the, move, and he basically works himself up into an anxiety attack almost. And for once, Zaxis is the level-headed one that actually calms Volk down. And kind of reminds them, like, hey, like, this is kind of why you have servants. This is why you have other people around you to help you with these things, not necessarily you have to do it by yourself. Zaxis does make a good quip that he does want to be called master still, because Zaxis is the one, in fact, training Volk in his fire or magma abilities. And Volk is like, no, I am never going to call you master, not even if there's a fire.
He also calls him a piece of toast. Which is just the worst. And I absolutely loved it, but it's like, yeah, you're that squeaky wheel on a shopping cart. Like,
it's just one of those, like, what is that supposed to mean? Now, Nicolin was able to find them, and then Illia was able to find the rest of them, so she was able to teleport everybody down to the kitchen where they're supposed to be meeting everybody. All of the bigwigs are here. So we've got Eventide, we've got King Odion, we have the other Queen Cilantro. I'm sorry.
Cilantro.
Yeah, however it is, apologies on the butchering of the name, but I think we eventually call her a topping now, so a taco topping.
She tastes like soap.
So we have all the Master Arcanists with the Frith Guild and Captain Devlin, and basically we need to sit down and kind of devise our plan. But before we can get started with this, Eventide pulls Volk aside, or requests an audience, I guess, since he is now the almighty god arcanist. She basically is telling Volk that he needs to be careful of who he puts in his second command. Obviously, we have these people that have sworn fealty to him. However, she believes that she is the best person for this. I don't know why, but the first time I was reading through these, I actually felt like this was a play for something.
I did too. It was strange. It was like, it felt too much. Mm-hmm. She wanted it officially, and it was, I don't know, I did too. I was very curious. I thought it was like her grabbing for power, not that she would be one to grab for power, but it came off that way. I don't know if it was supposed to or not, but
right, and that's exactly what I felt like it was, that grab for power, and obviously she lays everything out. Shamey laid everything out to us that, like, she doesn't want power for the sake of having power. She wants it to protect everybody. Excuse me. She wants to be that counselor, the guide, mentor, I guess, advisor. There we go. The word I want to use. She's wanting to be that advisor to make sure that nothing gets promised that cannot be followed up with. So, not sure why, but yeah, definitely have that slight bit of a power grab feel to it. She does also say that he has outgrown the guild, and Volk doesn't want that, and he wants the guild to actually grow with him and not the other way around. And again, the guild is based on all of these arcanists helping the defenseless. Now, Liette did make a comment and that she's going to have a guild pendant that is worthy of a god arcanist crafted. I don't know why they're going to even bother with this, because obviously nobody cares about their guild pendants in this place.
They're just going to throw it away.
They're just going to get tossed aside like nothing.
That does bring us into chapter 23, changing the terrain. So Volk is trying to figure out his creative evocation. He makes little plants come out of his fingers, and I just pictured Groot, like.
Yes.
And he does he's talking with Terracana, and that Terracana explains, like, hey, you have to choose between either your creative or your destructive. At one point, one of them is going to become mastered, and you will lose access to the other one. He also gives him advice of, like, hey, you need to think through the consequences of your actions before you do things, because you're a god arcanist. So just general advice. So Terracana is really doing well as a wise little baby serpent.
But do you think he could have done that before he promised the other places to rearrange their terrain?
Yeah, he should have started with that one, but Illia does come to ask Volk, to ask Adelgis, to ask the captured prisoner about Callisto. And I just pictured the scene from like Harry Potter where Hermione comes, Ron told.
Ron asked me to ask that Seamus talked to him, that Neville talked to him.
So it very much felt like that. And Volk strikes a deal with her that, hey, you got to spend some time with Thane, and I'll get Adelgis to ask the prisoner about Callisto for you. He's trying to kind of take one request from her, meet Thane's request of feeling lonely. He thinks that they'll be good friends despite kind of her hatred of pirates. So she does agree that she will attempt to be more friendly with Thane.
Hey, he's multitasking.
He is. He's doing pretty good at this, like, maneuvering. He does have another dream of the Ocean Castle, and in this one he does, now that he's a little better understanding of his magic, he does try to manipulate it, and he's able to manipulate the bricks of the castle, but before he can really get into it, he does end up waking up. This does give him a nice little epiphany of like, I can probably also manipulate like the marble in the place because it comes from the world. So this really did help him understand his magic a lot more than he did before. And then the last little interaction we get is Eviana coming into the room and essentially talking to him about respect and titles and these things that it feels like a 15-year-old should not be talking to you about. But here we are.
With his hand stuck in the marble. The best part of like Eviana, when she's talking to Volk about titles and being called princess and everything else, is he's got his hand stuck in the floor because she interrupted him while he was trying to manipulate it. He's probably just sitting there like, like don't bother me. I'm stuck to the floor.
Trying to get my hand back.
And with that comes chapter 24, Pirate Dreams. Volk is in dreaming again. Adelgis has given him the dreams of the pirate that they had captured, that Lucian interrogated. We get a few glimpses into the Soul Forge as far as how it works, and basically it can cause creatures to be reborn. And it also shows that Marcus, who is the captured pirate, it was allowed to bond with the griffin. And then the dream kind of like jumps forward or backwards, I guess, to when Callisto was bringing some people to meet with a Thesan. And Marcus gets shoved into this pit, and they instantly start getting like sucked of their life force. And Thesan is got the Soul Forge and basically can take life from one person or one thing and move it to another. Marcus was screaming for help to be saved, and this is something that I found very odd, was that Callisto actually saved him. He had Hellion jump in, grab him, and pull him out before he got completely soul transferred, or I don't know what we were going to call this, but it was very interesting that Callisto did this nonetheless. Next dream, we jump again back to Port Crown. They're sitting all in a sauna or steam bath, and the imagery of this is everybody is nude. Nobody's wearing anything except for Callisto, and all he's got is a unicorn horn trinket. And Spider's there, and Marcus is there, and they're all just kind of chilling in the steam bath nude. Marcus starts to kind of like have this conversation with Callisto, and Callisto's just like, I just want to relax, enjoy the steam bath. You guys have to keep rambling on and on. We find out that the Third Abyss is carrying around all of these dead creatures for some crazy magic that Callisto doesn't have any clue about, nor does he care, just as long as he gets paid to do it. And the second extension leaves him alone.
That brings us to chapter 25, Magic and Family. In talking to Adelgis, he really doesn't think Marcus is going to have that much info. He seemed like he was more in it for Callisto than really in it for any of the magic or the Second Ascension tricks and plans that they're getting into. Volk does run into Jose and Riker, which I think is actually kind of a nice little family reunion moment that I did kind of like Riker's actually getting to talk to Jose, which is very cool. And they're talking about the party. Volk wants to have a party. He wants Gravekeeper William to be there. Jose kind of warns him of getting power hungry, so it does feel like there's this theme of almost Volk struggling with like how to correctly exercise my power. Like, what is too much? What is not enough? How do I manage people's expectations? So it's something that, I mean, I can't imagine going from, you know, essentially a journeyman to a god arcanist. There's no one above you at that point. That's a huge transition to make, a lot to take in from just organizing people and managing personalities.
And at the age of 17.
Yeah, even tougher. Volk is training with Zaxis and Zelfrey. He is learning kind of creative ways to use his magic, so he's creating motes of magma, and this is something that Zelfrey and Zaxis really want him to focus on because the magma is extremely powerful. It seems to be a lot more powerful than his little plant fingers at this point. And their sparring session is cut short with Eventide returning with Yesna, who is one of the Master Arcanes of the Frith Guild that was out adventuring previously.
Anytime we talk about his vegetation coming out of his fingers, all I can think about is the scene of Guardians of the Galaxy when they're in the prison and Rocket needs the guy's leg. You're like, okay, we gotta wait until we're ready. And then Groot's just like, yeah, screw you.
We're going now.
And with that ends chapter 25. This week we don't have any real new mystical creatures to kind of go over. We do have quite a few that are coming up that we're kind of saving on, holding on to, so definitely covering them when we get to them. But again, lots still to go over later on in this book. And with that, we'll end this week's episode. Just want to quickly remind everybody, we will be sitting down with John Stovall, the author of Demon Card Enforcer, and the second one, also Shamy's husband. And he has his book releasing in the middle of February 18th. And we will, like I said, we'll be sitting down with him next week and talking with him about Demon Card Enforcer series. So definitely look forward to that. And I know, like most of you guys, I will be reading the next book in the Astra Academy series and super excited to get into that. I know I've seen little snippets of chapters here and there, so definitely excited to get into that. And Scott, do you have anything else you'd like to add today?
No, I'm excited for the third Demon Card Enforcer, so.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll catch you guys next week.